You're listening to Story Struck. I'm Rachel, an editor and writing coach.
And I'm Nino, a ghostwriter and book coach. Welcome to our curious community where we dive into everything books and writing.
Now, let's get into the episode. We are so excited to have Melissa Olthoff on the podcast today with her book that just released, Rise from Ruin. I cannot wait to get my hands on this baby. So today we're going to talk about, obviously, your new book and a bunch of other topics, including friendship in the writing community, which we have been discovering as we've been doing this podcast, how rich the writer community is with having those connections, having community, because it's kind of been us living in our bubble, and that is how we connected. And now we're like, wow, it's not just us. There's so many other people that have these rich, beautiful relationships. So Absolutely. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into writing.
So, like you said, my name is Melissa Olthoff. I write sci-fi and fantasy, and I always sneak in romance because I write what I love to read. And I grew up reading so many books. And I mean, I went through all, like, you know, the Goosebumps phase, Thoroughbred series, Animorphs, all these great, like, kid-friendly series. And then when I was in 7th grade, my lovely English teacher, she was like, girl, you cannot write your book report on Goosebumps. I'm like, okay, fine, fair enough. So she's like, go to the adult section of the bookstore, your library, what have you, and pick something from the adult section. It could be fantasy, it could be sci-fi, whatever you want. Just pick something. I'm like, okay. So I discovered Anne McCaffrey's Dragonflight, the Dragon Riders of Pern series, and I fell in love with, like, that just epic scope of, like, the science fiction adventure with dragons and bonds and, like, this epic struggle of life and death. I'm like, oh, okay, adult fiction is really cool. I love this stuff. And then I got so mad when I discovered I could not, in fact, be a green dragon rider because 11-year-old me wanted to be a dragon rider so bad. You know, as one does, I got so angry about it. I joined the Air Force because I was going to fly. I was going to be a pilot. And I got about this close. I got halfway through pilot training and then I was medically disqualified. But I'm like, you know what? It's fine. Things happen for a reason. One day I'm going to write a dragon rider story. Life happened, all these things. And then one day this griffin popped up in my head and went, hee, bet. So I didn't actually write a dragon rider story. I wrote a dragon rider story where the cadet who was this close to getting everything she ever wanted ended up onto a griffin instead. It's funny how life just takes all these twists and turns. But one of the things that I wanted to come on and talk with you all about is the power of friendship, because I would not be here with this awesome new book and with all these awesome things happening without the power of friendship, without the people I've met and the connections and friendships that I've made along the way.
Yeah, well, especially when you're having such a, you know, a pivot, right? When your life really pivots and stuff, having those friends, especially to hold you down to the ground, right? To tether you when you're off and like, is this crazy? Like, am I crazy? Is this, should I do this? It's so helpful to have those people to keep you anchored in and to be like, no, it's okay. You can do it. Because we gaslight ourselves. Especially as women, we gaslight ourselves so much out of that audacious, you know, tenacious dreaming. Right. And sometimes we just need one of our bestie cheerleaders in our corner to be like, no, bitch, let's go. Like, yes.
Let's go. And to be clear, the answer is yes, I am crazy because I have voices in my head, but you know what? It's the good kind of crazy. And I have friends who are just as crazy as me. And we're all very supportive of each other, not just with, you know, failures, but with success too. And that is so important in this industry, is to have those people that are going to be just as excited about your successes as they are of their own. It's really uplifting.
Yeah, that is so wonderful. I know, like, I was talking with, you know, Nino and some of our other guests that it's different when you have a friend that's a writer versus trying to share this with your everyday friends, especially like, you know, you have the voice inside your head and I'll just be there and I'll be like, laugh out loud because I'll think of something funny my character is saying, like, what's going on? I'm like, oh, well, this, you know, this, and they're like, okay, like, And like, but that's normal. Like, that's the creative process, or not understanding why, like, this book that I started to write was going to be a cozy fantasy. And then I was talking with Nino through it, and now it's like a like 6-book epic, like dark urban fantasy romantasy book. And I'm like, what just happened to my cozy character Cassie, who was like this little witch in a bookstore, and now she's got like this goddess energy that shattered the world in her? I'm like, I don't know, but okay, that's what happened. And like Nino's like, yeah, go with it, like that's what it wants to be. And everyone else is like, you just gave up on that story. I'm like, no.
No,
It evolved.
it
Yes.
fucks with the character voices. That's fantastic. Also, I want to read that because that sounds amazing.
Oh my gosh, you don't even know the half of it. It's going to be so amazing. Oh my gosh. So yeah, and I think that's when we always say, like, when the idea fairy comes, you have to listen. And so it sounds like you had the idea fairy visit when your griffin popped in, and then
Well,
Rachel's idea fairy visited when it's just like, oh no, honey, this is going to be so much more epic than a cozy. Cozies can't be epic, but like,
there is a meme floating around right now where it's like, the author has an outline and plans, and then the characters are just laughing, going, "You think? Nah."
Yeah.
I have a sci-fi series, Salvage Buddy, and I had plans, ladies. I had plans. I knew who the romantic interest was. I knew it was this dude. I set it up in the short story prequel, and then I started writing the novel. It was my first novel, Sunrise Over Shippo, and somebody that was supposed to be the secondary character was like, "No, it's me. I'm the love interest." I'm like, gosh dang it! Now I got to fix all this stuff that I planned because the characters were talking, right? And if you don't listen, then you're just fighting against the voices in your head, and that probably actually leads you to a padded room at some point.
yeah, I call that spiritual creativity. I actually am like designing a whole program right now based on helping people like tap into that, because I think that in my opinion, that's like otherworldly stuff, right? It's almost like you're connecting with another dimension. And I know some people might be listening to this and ready to commit me to that padded room, but honestly, like that's the experience. And so that's what it feels like when this story just comes in, and then the story tells you what to do. You're not dictating the story is telling you, and you're just the conduit for it. And so tapping into that flow as a writer, I think it honestly makes your writing so much better. It makes your story so much better. And I'm in editing for mine now. I'm like, oh, so this like channeling this story literally makes editing easier because I have so little developmental editing that I'm having to do. I'm like, cool. I don't know. I guess we'll find out once I send it to Rachel to fully edit. I'm sitting here like, okay, chapter 12, and I haven't had any developmental issues yet. So heck yes.
That's the best. I love it. I also love when our subconscious like helps us out, because you figure something out like maybe 3/4 of the way through, and you're like, oh, that works so good. Now I need to go back and foreshadow that, and you go start doing your edits. You're like, oh, I kind of hinted at it already. I just need to punch it up here, and here, and we're good.
Yeah. It was I had the same thing with my book. I'm like 90% of the way through, and all of a sudden this reveal came. I'm like, oh, I didn't even think of doing that. How did that not even cross my mind? And then like she's sitting there exposing this bit about her, and I'm like, oh my god, that's going to be so much better for book 2. I'm like, oh, what a setup for book 2. It's so fun. So I know we talked to Marisa, and she was raving about your book, and actually as of recording, her episode just came out today. That's live, and you can listen to that as of the time of our recording. So yeah, and she was talking about your book, and she was talking about like, how she read one of your early drafts of it, and she was just like, oh, if it just like this one thing, just like add like just like, you didn't do the one thing, and I really thought you should do the one thing or whatever. And then you it like helped so much. And so having that extra writer, like,
Oh, yeah.
can you talk about like having writer friends reading your work and how different that is from like, say, an editor?
Seriously, like when I say, the power of friendship is amazing, I don't just mean like with, regards to networking or industry connections. It is literally having like those friends in your life that you can bounce ideas off of, that can read your stuff for you. You don't create from a vacuum, right? I think Alona Andrews said that we take in things that we read, things that we watch, talking with other writers, talking with readers, talking with friends. Like the early draft of Rise from Ruin, I sent out to a number of close friends that, we beta read for each other. We trade drafts, and from each of them, I got something that made the story so much stronger than it would have been if I hadn't had those people in my life. For instance, Marisa was like, outside of yelling at me in all caps, which was amazing, she was like, okay, I need you to explain to me why this adorable baby tank, this black dragon, like only appears once. I kept waiting for him to reappear because he's adorable baby tank. And I'm like, oh, you're right. You're right. I know exactly what to do with it. She's like, why is he not bonded to like Dimitri, my idiot love interest? I'm like, oh yes, because if I do this, because initially he was just a gray dragon rider, and not just, but that was the type of dragon he was going to bond to. And she's like, no, if you make him a black dragon rider, it helps tie all the other things that I already set up like just perfectly. There was other people that were like, yeah, you started it a little bit too late. You need to back up the story a little bit and start it here. Or my personal favorites, my oldest friend, Casey Morris, he was like, no, all caps yelling at me. No, you cannot kill this villain, this bad guy here off page. Like, this is not okay. You need to either like give this a satisfactory conclusion, or he needs to live to bad guy another day. And I'm like, yeah, he does need to live to bad guy another day, because I just finished the draft for book 2 and he was super useful for that story. But it's all those that input that like you two do, where you trade drafts and everything, and getting that input from somebody that you trust, whose opinion that you value, that they're gonna like give you feedback that actually fits with what you're trying to do. That is invaluable as a writer. And I am very fortunate in the friends that I have. And I'm still kind of wondering how all that stuff happened. It's amazing.
You made a great point there of getting the feedback, from the people who are going to resonate with your book and understand your work. Because I have worked previously as a ghostwriter, and that was a big challenge when they were sending drafts out and they'd be like, oh, well, I sent this to, my niece read this, and, I gave, this to my cousin, and they came back with all of this feedback, and now I don't know what to do. And I'm like, okay, but are they your target audience, and do they read this genre? And he's like, well, no. And I'm like,
That's
okay, then I think we need to take that with a grain of salt and probably toss it all out. So I think that is so powerful, and like that is great, because like Nino, she likes the genre that I write in, I like the genre she's writing in, and so it's so fun to have that. I would love to know, how did you meet your writer buddies, your writer friends?
Well, so Casey Azell, which she is the reason that like I got to like reach out to you guys and be here today. She is also one of my, so boy Casey and girl Casey is what we call Casey Azell and Casey Moores. I have known her since time math years ago. We're not doing the math. But I met both of them when I was just a baby second lieutenant in the Air Force. And, we went to Dragon Con together, which is like nerdy gras in Atlanta every Labor Day weekend. And we just went as like fans. Like we dressed up, we like ran around like crazy people. It was great. But we were all in the Air Force. And the saying is, it's a small Air Force. Just hang around long enough and you're going to run into everybody that you know. So I was actually getting ready to deploy to Iraq back in 2010, 2009, yeah, one of those 2 years. And I get halfway, like I leave Kansas City, I get halfway across the country to Charleston, and in the airport, like across the way, I'm like, Casey? literally like there, I knew she was deploying at about the same time as me, but we literally deployed downrange together, which is just, it was so crazy. We weren't actually in the same location, which, I mean, that would have been great, but it was nice just having a friend like for a deployment situation. So that was really cool. And from there, like we stayed in touch. I stayed in touch with Casey. I was in Boy Casey's wedding as a bridesmaid. Like, so I had that solid, foundation of friendship that was outside of writing. And then Boy Casey reached out to me after about 4 years of radio silence because we got busy with kids and, we were both married and life just happens. And he's like, hey, would you like to read the short story for me? Because he knew I read the same things that he does and I like the same genres. And I'm like, one, nice to know you're alive. Two, absolutely, I'd love to. And it just kind of progressed from there. He was like, hey, have you heard of this NaNoWriMo thing? I'm like, nano what now? And he explained it was the whole 50,000 words in November. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I could try writing because I used to, but life. So he was like, this is pretty good. You should submit a short story for this open call that Chris Kennedy Publishing has. Chris Kennedy is an amazing publisher. He usually holds open about four slots for an open call for his different anthologies. And it was urban fantasy. I'm like, oh, that's my jam. Yes, I can totally do this. When's it due? 3 weeks. Okay, yeah, I can do this. I can write my first short story in 3 weeks. I've got this. And it turned out I did. In fact, have it. I got one of the open slots and it kind of progressed from there. There was a few other anthologies that I got a story in, and then there was a open call for a contest for, I think it was the Songs of Valor anthology, which was partially sponsored by Fantasy, which was a convention that was held out in Raleigh every March or so. It's on a hiatus right now. But I got one of those slots and talked it over with my husband. I'm like, hey, I won. Do you think I could like travel out to Raleigh and actually be at the convention? And we worked out the schedule because we have kids and jobs and all the things. And my first panel as a, attending author was with Marisa Wolf. And we both were friends with Casey, but we never met each other. So we were like, aren't you Casey's friend? Like at the same time, it was amazing. And we just kind of built our friendship from there. I met my evil twin, Nick Steverson, at that same convention. I got to hang out with Boy Casey at that convention. So it was a combination of already existing friendships and then repeatedly going to these conventions, getting to build on those friendships and just hang out and geek out about all of these cool things, whether it was like sci-fi stuff or dragons or like just the fact that how cool is this that we have published stories and we get to talk on panels about cool stuff. Yes. So really that's how it all got started. It just snowballed from there. And then we met more and more people and realized you're cool. I'm cool. We're all cool. Let's hang out and talk. And sometimes it spirals into, hey, do you want to write the story with me? Cool. Let's see if we can work together. I was literally talking about this with Jason Cordova, who's one of my co-authors. Excellent, awesome dude. He works for Baen. He's got a few things out from Baen and also with CKP. And I was talking about it with Marisa Wolf, and I'm like, how are we this lucky? Like, how did this happen? Like, we know all these awesome people now, and really being able to go to local conventions, it really does help because then people can connect your face with your name and who you are online and what things that you write. So it's been enormously beneficial to my career and also a lot of fun.
It sounds
That's
glad.
so cool. Well, like if Casey didn't say that thing about the short story and like, hey, you want to do this thing with me? Like the domino effect of that,
It is insane how things work out in life sometimes. Like you can trace things back to a certain point. You go, that right there, that's where everything changed. Holy crap. And honestly, like so many of the things in my life would not have happened if I hadn't joined the military, because that's how I met Casey and Casey. That's how, I got flight experience. That's how I met my husband. Like all these things would not have happened if I hadn't joined the Air Force. And that would have happened if I hadn't picked up Anne McCaffrey's Dragonflight and been so angry that I could not be a green dragon.
See, look at the power of books. It completely changes. Like, this is what we say. Fiction can change your life.
100%. I totally believe that. Like, not even being facetious. Stories have the power to shape change and your life and your personality. It's powerful stuff.
Has there ever, I mean, other than the Anna Caffrey, has there ever been a fiction story that was like one of those moments where you're like, after reading it, you're like, well, I'm not the same person?
You know what? Yes, there is. And it actually happened fairly recently. It was one of the moments where, so there I was, sitting in my kitchen, minding my own business, just reading for Marisa Wolf. And I read Beyond Enemies for her because, again, trade stories, right? I read the first draft all the way through, read it. And then I sat in my kitchen for about 10 minutes wondering what the heck I was supposed to do with my life now. Because that book broke me in the best way possible. Like, I am real good at spotting twists. I am, like, unapologetically, like, I am good at seeing that stuff coming. And I did not see what she was doing until it happened. And I'm like, well, crap. I think I've read that story 5 times now between like the editing process and then just reading it because I wanted to. So that is a recent example. But the other book that I picked up at the same time as Anne McCaffrey's Dragonflight was Mercedes Lackey and Larry Dixon's The Black Griffin. And that was the first like adult fantasy book I'd read where it had a non-human character. Like Scandronon, the Black Griffin, he was a fully fleshed out real person. He just happened to be a griffin. And that was real eye-opening for me as like an 11-year-old kid going, oh, they can be real characters too, not just like a side character or a pet or just, comic relief. It was really cool and definitely helped influence that.
Yeah, it sounds like it. What was Maurice's book again? Because that sounds really awesome. I also can spot a twist a mile away. I blame it on the ADHD.
It's Beyond Enemies. It's published by Bain. And I definitely need you to message me after you read it and let me know if you spotted what she was doing with the things. And I'm not saying anything else for possible spoilers.
Book club time.
Oh, right. Like we're just making our way through the books of everybody we've interviewed on the podcast so far. So we're just like chipping away at everyone. I got a signed copy of Casey's book. So yeah. So exciting. Rachel, did you have something that you wanted to say? Because
Yeah. I just want to say I absolutely love the teacher you had that like they let you go and pick literally any book you wanted, because I did not have that experience in school. Like it was all very like the dry classic, books that everybody has to read. And like I loved writing, but when I was in school, I thought like, okay, well, if I want to write, it has to be books like that. And, and then that just kind of dampened me down. Yeah. And then you move into like, adult life and people are like, well, you can't have a career as a writer and, things like that. And I just think it's so important to like, remember, how we're interacting with, the younger folks in our lives and letting them know that any type of fiction is acceptable fiction. Like read what lights you up, and like, we don't need to be stuck in this rigid bubble of these are real books, or the book.
Yep. Oh, I fully agree. Like both of my kids are turning into bookworms and I could not be more proud. You can't tell them this. You can't tell them I know this, but they go to bed totally on time, no problems. And I'm like, yep, they're sitting up after dark with a flashlight reading books. And I'm just so proud. Such a proud mom moment, especially my daughter has discovered Goosebumps and is reading these same books I read as a kid. My son is obsessed with dragons. He's reading like the Wings of Fire series, which was not a thing when I was a kid. I'm like, this is so great. If they don't ask to go to toy stores, they have to go to Barnes and Noble and go get new books.
Oh my God, I love it.
Oh,
Winning.
so just
I
the
love it.
mom dream for me there. Like, oh my
They're
God.
also monsters, like, to be clear, but they are also occasionally adorable.
I was also a huge Bumps fan growing up too. I read all of those.
I wanted to be.
I love them so
I
much.
wanted to be so bad. Like I liked the show, and then I had a library guy at my librarian. Oh my God. See, I
Nope.
told you I'm going today. The library guy, librarian at my school would read us the Goosebumps books, but I could barely read up until like 6th grade. And so like I always wanted to be readers like you guys growing up, and I just like didn't tap into that until I was like well into adulthood and stuff. So could you talk a bit about like what kind of limiting beliefs that you had? Because I know like for me, like it was Rachel who cracked open the belief that I could write a fiction story. She cracked open like that I could write a nonfiction story too. Like my whole like ghostwriting and book coaching thing is attributed to her. But also, like I would come up with this idea. I'm like, oh, wouldn't that be so cool? And she's like, why don't you write it? I'm like, me? Write what? I don't know how to write a fiction story. What are you talking about? Because of all those limiting beliefs that I had growing up, and like I had a 1st grade reading level in 6th grade, you know, like it was I could read, but could I read? And so while everyone else was sitting there reading the Chronicles of Narnia, I'm sitting there with Click Clack Boom or whatever the fuck it's called. So so like she was super pivotal for me to overcoming a lot of my limiting beliefs and becoming the writer that I am today. So, and it sounds like Casey kind of acted a little bit of the same for you. Did you have other limiting beliefs that you had to kind of overcome in order to become this epic writer you are now?
1, thank you, that's adorable. But 2, I tell you another secret. Imposter syndrome almost never goes away. I've talked with people who have been in the industry for longer than probably all 3 of us put together have been alive. And they're like, I'm just waiting for somebody to realize that I'm nothing but a fraud and that I'm not really like good at this. And that is also where it's so important to have that support network, because holy crap, I wrote a short story, gonna get with Marisa later on tonight to do the edits for it and everything. But man, I was convinced it was hot garbage. Like, here, please read my trash. It might be on fire and it probably smells, but you know, hope you like it. But that's like, I wouldn't do that like in public, right? I wouldn't tell somebody, if I'm trying to get somebody to read this awesome book, I'm not gonna go, you know, well, it's okay. My mom liked it. It's, you know, it doesn't stink. No, I'm gonna tell you like this is the best thing I ever wrote and I love it and I hope you love it too, because I had so much fun with those friends, with that close support network. You can go, oh my God, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like, do I even know how to word anymore? How do sentences sentence? I don't know how this works. So being able to be vulnerable like that with your friends, with your author buddies, with your beta readers, it's really nice. It is really great to be able to just like sport bitch essentially about how like, well, I suck. Clearly, I have no idea what I'm doing. And then to have them read it and go, okay, 1, you're being dumb. This is great. And then talk through some ideas on how to make it better. And that's also key. Like, yes, cheerleading is important. And I will cheerlead the heck out of my friends. But I will also tell them, hey, yes, and here's how you could tighten this up a bit. Or, hey, you did this back here. What if you did this? And they might not take my suggestions, but it's enough to get, you know, the brain thinking again. It's the same thing when they do that for me, where it's like, yes, this is great. You are awesome. You are kicking butt. Here's some ideas that I have. And I go, oh, I like the idea. I don't think I'll use it exactly like that, but now my brain is working again. And it's past that, I suck. This is hot garbage. Like it's enough to get your brain out of that, like, really negative rut that it's so easy to fall into. And I've just decided it's normal. It's also normal for me, like if somebody was like, hey, would you like to be a part of this anthology? And I go, yes. What's it about? And then they tell me, and I go, cool. Like, did you ever watch Big Hero 6?
Yes.
It is literally like the dude, like the kid, like just banging his head on the desk going, stupid brain, no ideas. And I have come to believe this is part of my process where I panic and flail and go, I have no ideas. I don't have any idea. I've never written or watched a movie or read a book in my life. There's just nothing but white noise. And in the meantime, my subconscious is, chewing away at it. And then I'm like, how about this? So some of this is really just like with experience, you tend to figure out how your own brain works, and you come up with ways to not counteract it so much as just work with it. And man, having those friends that can help pull you out of that imposter syndrome and the self-doubt is vital and really a key, I think, to anybody's success, whether we're talking writing or any other creative endeavor, right?
Yeah, and I think with because if you think about like, oh, if I were to talk to one of my non-writer friends, or if I were to talk to a family member who, doesn't understand the whole shebang of things, what kind of reaction might I get had I said something like, I don't know if I'm really equipped to da da da, right? Like my mother could not get me to read for crap when I was growing up because I couldn't do it really good. And so it was frustrating, and I didn't try very hard to do it because it was very frustrating and I had a lot of shame around it. And so like if I had come to her maybe theoretically with this like book idea, she would have been like, I mean, it sounds really cool, but like you don't even like read, you never like really even read that much, like, you know what I mean? And sometimes when you're in that vulnerable state, something as small as that can be a significant hit. And that could be that that fork in the road where, do I join the military? Do I not join the military? That like leads to everything, right? Because each decision we make about something can be that huge life-changing fork in the road. We just don't know at the time.
Right.
Like you're picking up that book, that was a fork in the road for you and you had no idea at that time. And so like writing this book could be that moment and stuff. And so for me to talk to Rachel about it got me to do it, over. And I'm like, wow, this is not only so fun, but it's also really feels natural for me to do and stuff. And then to have her like be there to read my first few chapters as I was in the process and give me some feedback. Also the feedback part, right? Because you have that it's because they understand how story works. Because they're readers of that genre, but also because they're writers of that genre. They understand how the story feels and flows and how story in general works. So they're able to point out those things and give you gentle direction and give you those ideas that give you those aha moments instead of it being an edit that spirals you back into shame,
Yep. Sometimes with edits, you just have to, like, one, there's that initial, like, don't touch my trash. This is my trash. This is very pretty and shiny and beautiful. And I don't want, all right. Yeah, your edits are actually they're kind of good. Dang it. So it is definitely a mental shift from like, these are my babies and I'm going to protect them and love them and squeeze them and hold them to, okay, a good editor is going to make that good story even better. So there is a bit of like divorcing your ego and your emotional, like, my trash from what you're writing when you go into edits. But I get it, man. Sometimes those edits, you're like, no, I don't want to.
I think it's so great, like, to have that writing friend. Like, when Nina was sending me stuff to look at, and, I could kind of be like, well, what do you want from me? Like, do you want me just to say, like, yes, this stuff is working and, what I liked, or do you want me to inject some other feedback in there? And then always, like, for me, trying to give it in like that constructive manner, like you were saying, like, this, and, trying to say, I loved this, but I'm kind of curious, how we got to here, because I really like how that we got here, but, maybe, it wasn't quite clear to me, because like we know what we know, and
Yes.
we don't know what we know that we're not putting on the page, like then the reader doesn't know, and it's like this big cycle.
Real clear up
But
here.
it's all up here. It's like we know it. Like for mine, I have this like huge epic like lore going back thousands of years to where I got to the beginning of the book, but like nobody else knows that. So like if I have it and it's missing on the page, I don't
Yes.
think about it because this whole world is real to me now because I'm a crazy person. So, it's nice to have that feedback of like, wait, what? Like, I think you missed something here. So I think, being clear with your writer friends of what kind of feedback you need in the moment is also important. And then, like, as you get to know each other, you know how the other person likes to receive feedback as well.
Yeah.
I think that is equally important. Kind of like from that editing background I have, like, people panic. And, like, I don't want Nino ever feeling like, oh, Rachel's going to have her editor hat on and she's going to tear the crap out of this. Cause like, no, like, and that's not how I edit anyway. Like I'm very gentle. But I think people just get so nervous when you're sharing, especially if you're sharing with someone else who has written a lot of books, and imposter syndrome creeps back in there as well. And you're like, ooh, like Casey's going to really think this one's absolutely garbage because of, she's written in this genre, or this or this. So I think it's nice that you can have that balance of you're going to get the support and cheerleading, but you're going to get feedback, but you're getting feedback in a safe way and in a fun way that's making it expansive versus like a moment where you just want to curl on a ball.
Right. Well, it's like here, I just tore out my heart and soul and blood on this page. Hope you like it. Like it's always terrifying putting something out in the world, whether it's and quite frankly, like it's more nerve-wracking to me when people I care about are reading my books and my stories versus like, well, I don't know you over there, so your opinion is awesome and I want to hear it, and I love reviews. We all love reviews. But it's not going to like gut me if this person that I don't know goes, you know what? You put too much romance in it. That's not for me. Like, okay, fine, fair. That's just not for you. Whereas if somebody whose opinion I trust and I value is like, what was this? And we go, oh no, I don't like that. And speaking of, asking what somebody needs. So there was a movie, Ocean's 11, where you had the two characters, Brad Pitt and George Clooney's characters. Like George Clooney is just talking about the plan. Brad Pitt's character, he's just got his head on the bar and he's just like not saying a word, not nodding, nothing. He's just staring into space. So Boy Casey, he has a tendency to call me, and he does that. He just talks. He's just, I am just freaking Brad sitting there listening to him talk. I figured out very quickly, I don't need to say anything. He's just needs me so he can work it out for himself. Like, you think we need one more? You're right. We need one more. And that's usually our dynamic. And then one day he was like, no, Melissa, I need Melissa right now. I need you to actually tell me what to do here. And I'm like, oh, shoot. Could you start over? Because I wasn't listening to any of it. It's like, okay, yeah, that's fair. And then he started over.
Oh my God. That is so funny. I know, like, we do that too, where we're like, I just sent you like a 12-minute voice memo. Like, you don't have to actually listen to it. Like, I worked it out. But like, if you want to listen, that's cool. Cause like, then I sent you another one like 2 minutes later because I realized what I worked out. So now you have like 15, 20 minutes of a voice memo. That's my rambling thoughts I cleared up.
It's really nice having that safe space to be able to just like, hey, so here's this crazy stuff going on in my head, whether it's sci-fi or fantasy or it's magic or battles. It's like, this sounds crazy, but I need to talk this out. And it's really cool being able to do that. I usually can't talk anything on the fantasy side out with my husband because while he is a reader, he does not like fantasy, but he does love sci-fi. Like, he grew up on like Battletech and Heinlein and Asimov and all like, all these awesome books. He's currently working his way through David Weber's Harrington Honor Harrington series. Lord, I can't talk at this point. So I can, like, when I'm writing mill sci-fi or when I'm writing a space opera, I can talk these ideas out with him. He's like, I will never be a writer, but I can be an idea person. And, you know, if he's in the right mood, we can talk for hours about this stuff. And he was also a Strike Eagle, an F-15E Strike Eagle fighter pilot. So whereas I only got halfway through pilot training, my husband, no kidding, like flew operationally. So when I'm trying to write anything related to flying, I'm like, hey, my tiny little baby hours of flying like tells me this should be the thing. Is this right? And he's a really good sounding board. So again, the power of friendship. You might not know all the things or have done all the things, but you can find somebody who is a horse girl like me. You can find somebody who flew helicopters like Casey Azell. You can find all these people that do know the things and have personal experience, whether we're talking firearms or a firefighter like our friend Leah. So power of friendship, you might not know how to do the things, but you might know somebody who does. And being able to talk to somebody who actually knows what they're talking about gives your writing some verisimilitude that is just amazing. And it does beat Google any day, being able to talk to somebody who's been there and done that.
Right, especially when you're writing something where you're having to like explain the visceral experience of it, like flying a jet is like there's such a body experience in it, right? So just like Googling it and getting some like vague words is not going to be doing you much good. Oh, this was fantastic. I think we are just about wrapped. So thank you so much for joining us. Do you want to give the people all your information so they can go find your new book, find you, stalk you online in a respectful way?
Yes, respectful stalking, please and thank you. That's so great. You guys can find me at melissaolthoff.com or .net. I am on all of the socials at this point because apparently that's how we market. So Facebook, Instagram as Salvage Bunny, Twitter or X or whatever the heck we're calling it. I'm on TikTok now. And I just had my first traditionally published novel come out from Bane, Rise from Ruin. And you can find that wherever books are sold. And it's got dragon riders, griffin riders, characters you're going to love, and characters you're probably going to want to punch in the face. But I love it so much. I know Marisa talked about it with you guys, but like, man, those voices are so strong. And it's very much, you know, what would you do if you were going to be a dragon rider and that was your dream? And you were that close, and then your three best friends are morons, and a prank goes wrong, and you end up bonded to an utterly ridiculous griffin instead. Got to pick yourself up.
Oh my God, I love it. I cannot wait to read it. Thank you so much for coming to chat with us again. You trio of ladies have been just gems, and we are so grateful that we were able to connect with you and talk with you. And we will definitely continue to be in touch because you're just so wonderful and you've given us so many fun ideas.
Right back at you, ladies. I will hang out with y'all anytime. This was so great. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you for listening. Check out the show notes for details and links from the episode. And don't forget to subscribe and follow for more. Special thanks to our composer, Micah Silverstein. Enjoy the rest of the music.